DDoS attack. Before I start DOS and DDoS attack, I request you to please subscribe my channel for more videos and tutorials. Denial of service and distributed denial of service attacks attempt to consume all of the resources that a computer or a network makes available to legitimate clients. And these are a big issue because they can disrupt the entire operation of a business. In most cases, what we see is an attacker who is not actually launching the denial of service attack himself. What he is done is though the use of malware. He has installed software on each of these machines. Now these are usually infected machines that establish command and control connection back to his computer. The attackers, that is, and then the attacker at any given time can issue the command to launch this denial of service attack against a specific target. Now at this point, the target has multiple requests coming from multiple users. Now these users often will spoof their source address. And so by spoofing that source address, we don't know really who to reply back to. When we reply back to the address, nobody ever responds. A good example of that is TCP IP send flood attack. In a TCP IP send flood attack, the spoofed address starts the send process. When the server sends the send ACK, nobody replies back, and eventually all these resources, those valuable resources, are gone. Now there are other type of denial of service attack. One of them is known as the ping of death. And again, the idea behind this is to consume resources or alternatively crash the resource. When we have a ping of death, what happens is the attacker is going to create a fragment, and they are going to set the fragment offset value that is in the IP header to a value that indicates that the size of this packet is more than 65,536 bytes. 65,536 number is the largest size that a packet can be, and that is defined by the IP protocol. There is just no way around it. So what happens is whenever a vulnerable machine gets this type of fragment, it tries to set up buffer to accommodate that packet size. And then all of a sudden it's got no more resources left because it's allocated all this buffer space to packet that has that fragment offset to a large size. But it is really not that big. Again, this is just another example of denial of service attack that can be launched. Now today most of our systems are patched against the ping of death. We don't generally use that happening anymore, but it is good to understand that it is possibility. It is something that could happen. So we want to make sure that we just understand that method of attack. We use that to understand how denial of service attacks work. But there are other protocols that are used for denial of service other than ICMP. Some other example would be ICMP or UDP Floods. And the idea of those types of attack is that they can just simply flood out a network, slowing it down using the network operation to kind of screech to a halt. Now one thing that is typically involved in attack of this sort is Botnet. And we saw that example of attacker using a command and control connection to attack a destination, and that is usually how botnets functions. So bot operators infect these computers, they become zombie computers at that point, and the code that allow them to be controlled is self-propagating. It is malware basically. And of course, when instructions are sent by that command and control server, those bots do exactly what it says. This kind of lead us into the thought that Denial of service is not necessarily going to be seen from a single host to a single target. What could happen is we could have what is known as a distributed denial of service attack. A DDoS is an attack where it targets a website or a server, but the source is distributed, perhaps through a botnet across the internet, basically. And the problem with this is it make it really hard to protect against these type of issues. There is quite a bit of detail in Cisco's annual security report about DDoS attack. They have spent quite a bit of time. The whole concept of DOS to consume resources to crash computers, that stands true, but the method of implementing that DOS can change. We saw it change from TCP send flood to the ping of death to UDP floods. Even the email spammer are using distributed denial of service attack to basically retaliate against organizations that they think are preventing them from stealing or generating revenue from people. We are seeing a trend in cybercriminal making use of cloud-based computing services like Amazon and such to launch their denial of service attack and distributed denial of service attack. One example of these type of DDoS campaign that cause a lot of problem, significant disruption and damage as well as financial loss. One of those was called Dark Soul. This target device in March of 2013, it involves a malware that destroyed data on a hard drive. Dark Soul. Another type of denial of service attack that we are seeing that again is making use of cloud-based services to propagate themselves, to distribute themselves, is ransomware. And nowadays we called it CryptoLocker. One of them is very popular. The name is CryptoLocker. Now the ransomware, a recent one was dubbed CryptoLocker, and it will encrypt your file. It will use 2048-bit RSA key pair and AES 256, Advanced Encryption Standard 256, so it couldn't be broken. It was a rather sophisticated attack, and it would spread itself through map drives, and it would spread itself through the network that way. So you may be connected to a network drive and the ransomware would encrypt what was on that network drive, and it would actually affect other users even though one user was the one that got infected. You will get a pop-up or a web page redirect that would have you pay a ransom within a certain amount of time, and if you didn't pay it in the certain amount of time, then the private key was going to be deleted from that command and control server, and if that happened, then all of your files would be lost. So if you had a good backup scheme, you would be okay, but if not, then a lot of people lost a lot of data based on those type of attack. So these are just some example of denial of service attack and the havoc that can have wreck on a network. So recently I heard CryptoLocker and many other ransomware have their keys online, so you can use online keys if you fell in CryptoLocker. So please subscribe my channel for further interesting more tutorial. Thank you so much.